Out again, but we might have to buy some more chairs, I think. These things are going here. So welcome to Coffee and Conversation. Before I introduce Gary, our presenter today, I just have a couple things I want to say. I want to thank Grant Thornton for the coffee and the Timbits this afternoon. They've been providing them for our Coffee and Conversation afternoon, so we're very grateful to them. And I also want to talk about a couple of the next things coming up, just so you know. This coming week we have some activities here every afternoon at the museum. There's a poster over there if you want to take it, anybody wants to take it. But tomorrow is free admission for Family Day if anybody is interested. And then there's a scavenger hunt with the Junior Historical Society on Tuesday afternoon. All of these are from 1 to 4. Archival beading, Troy Toronto, who's here somewhere, is doing beading for us on Wednesday afternoon. That's for ages 15 and above. On Thursday afternoon, Jen Brown is making a Métis Parfleche bag, again with kids' activity, family activity. Archives tours on Friday afternoon, which anybody can come to. You'll get into the bowels of the building if you're interested what's down there and what's in the back. This is your chance. And so admission is the regular admission for all those afternoons except Family Day, which is free. And I just want to mention our next Coffee and Conversation, which is in a month, is with John Daisley. And again, there's a bunch of posters at the end of the table if you want to take one. John Daisley is a retired forestry technologist, and he and others are part of a forest history group in Saskatchewan, and they're collecting all sorts of information and telling all the stories of the history of forestry in Saskatchewan. And so he's going to be talking about a railroad car that was used to pioneer the environmental benefits of planting trees and forests, and all the little communities it went to in the 30s, 40s, and 50s in Saskatchewan. So that's his presentation in a month from today. So I want to introduce Garry Prokop, our presenter today. Gary's a longtime Historical Society member. He was a board member for a while, and he's also a photographer, and he takes great pictures of these wonderful churches in our local area. And he has maps here too. I love maps. There's maps that you can see with all where they are if you want to go see for yourself.
Hey, everybody. Like Connie said, my name is Gary, and thank you, Connie, for the intro. So I guess we're going to get a picture here, and then we'll turn the lights down.
Yes,
so we can actually see.
the lights will be killed in a minute.
Yeah, so
just talk for a bit so you look like you're doing stuff.
So this is a pretty good crowd, actually, because when I first showed up, there's maybe 3 people here today. That's about the right size for me. I'm not sure how many are here, but it's great. Everyone showed up. First of all, my name is Gary again, I guess. I'm actually originally from Saskatoon. I've been in Prince Albert since '95, so this is home for me. So we're going to talk about churches today, but really, I'm not an expert on this. I've never been a religious person. I don't really know a lot about churches and whatnot per se, other than what I've just found out for myself. So really, I guess you want to call it fascination with churches happened similar to a picture like this that we saw. We took the picture up, we saw the view, I guess. My wife and I were up for a drive in the arm of Garden River, and we were on River Road, which is on the south side of the North Saskatchewan River near Cecil Ferry. And across in the distance, you could see this white church sticking up out of the trees. And that's really what kind of caught my attention, was that, like, there's this flat prairie, there's some rolling hills out there on the Garden River. But there was this church just standing there like a beacon, like miles away. It was probably about 3-4 miles away. So we crossed the ferry, we drove out there, we found this church, and really didn't know anything about it, of course. And this is kind of what the view that started out my interest in photography and doing photographing churches in the rural countryside. We've not only gone around Prince Albert, but whenever my wife go on a trip, we usually take the side roads and we're trying to find old places to look at. So this is really what started off here was this church, which was I think it's called the St. Peter and Paul Church. It's in the arm of Garden River, just north and east of the Cecil Ferry. And there's some pictures here. This is basically as you're getting closer. Now, these pictures sometimes taken at different times, so you'll see sometimes it's really cloudy, sometimes it might be sunny. So I kind of took a mishmash of all the pictures I had and tried to make something that flowed quite nicely. So yeah, this is the St. Peter and Paul Church. And also, if anybody has any anything they want to add, have any questions, because like I said, I don't know a lot of the history of these. So anybody that has any information.
Claytonville right now.
This is Claytonville, that's right, yeah. So,
all
actually.
these churches still exist, all the pictures you're going to show us?
Yes, yes. Now, some of these pictures I took a number of years ago, so what state they're in now, I'm not sure. When we first found this church, it was in really good shape, but now, we have been there for a few years now, but it's not in great shape.
Oh.
So there you can see it. I mean, quite majestic when you think, it's a pretty big church for being just out in the country.
It's what?
Now,
Yeah.
yes, this is the St. Peter and Paul Polish Church. That's what somebody told me, so if anybody has any other information about that, please, anybody speak up. If you'll notice off to the, I guess sort of in the front of the church, what's off to the side, you see like it looks like a little shed, I guess. Next to that, there was a building, and I think it's still there, that when we first went there about 20 years ago, when you look in the window, it was like, I'm not sure if it was the minister or the priest, so I'll use those terms interchangeably, so again, I'm not a religious expert, I guess. But it looked like the priest or the minister had been living in there, and everything was left as if he just walked away. Like there was couches in there, there was a china cabinet, there was dishes in the china cabinet. It was just like I said, it was just like he had walked away. We had gone back probably 20 years later, 15 years later, we noticed that each time we went by, it seemed like things were missing, maybe things, you know how it is in the country when no one's around, people don't ransack places. So the church is looking a little worse for wear now, but still, just beautiful. This is just sort of another view. I like the way the picture got the cross on the top there. That was on a different day, but cloudy and sort of ominous looking, I guess you would say. Now this is the inside, so when we first showed up, like I say, 20 years ago, I mean, the pews were all in order, there was a big chandelier, it was in very, very good shape. Now it's getting to be a little bit rough around the edges, which is too bad. It's really sad to see. See the old stove with the chimney.
So is this very close to where the school was? The Claytonville School?
That's a good question. My father-in-law went to that school, I believe, right? So Ray, where was it close by,
He said
right?
it was down the hill from there.
Down the hill, but it was across the road from there, right?
Was it across the road from the church?
Across the road, down the hill.
So basically, I'm gonna make part of the picture here, but basically in this clump of trees here, I think that's where that school, the old schoolyard was?
That's where the school
Yeah,
is.
Oh,
Which is now the evolution of education museum.
that's right, exactly, yeah. So that school that was on that property is now the Evolution of Education Museum. So there's the St. Peter and Paul Church, and then up on top of the hill, there is a cemetery there as well. That I don't know if it's associated with this church, I would think so, but I'm not 100% sure. And just a little funny story, me growing up in the city, in Saskatoon, all my uncles were farmers, but I'm not a farmer by any stretch of the imagination, but there was we were at that cemetery just on top of the hill, and we saw this combine coming down the road, a couple of trucks, and we got started talking to this farmer. His mom was going to combine the canary seed in the field. And I said, what do you use canary seed? I asked the farmer, what do you use canary seed for? Feed canaries. I know. So that was interesting. You learn something all the time.
canary seed. Yeah.
So we'll catch back up here to where we were. So you can see just the intricate woodwork in that to build this back probably, I don't know the date on it, but I'm sure it's early 1900s somewhere. There maybe was I didn't find that picture. There was, I think, a metal statue or a marker in front that maybe said 1915. I'm not 100% sure about that. And that's it from the other side, basically. This is looking south now towards the North Saskatchewan. Now this church is probably one of my favorites. It's the Seventh-day Adventist Ukrainian church. It's in the arm of Garden River as well. So if you went up that hill from the previous church, turn right, went a mile, and then turn left and another mile and a half.
Yes, got lost.
Now, this church, when we first found it, we almost drove by it because there's a bunch of trees, and you drove by and it's kind of nestled in the trees, and I think a few other times we went by there, we think it's a little bit further, and then you drive by, you gotta back up and go back in, on the property. So, yeah, this is the Seventh-day Adventist church. It's never been opened, and there are, like in the previous one, there are pictures of the inside. We've never, of course, broken in. It's only opened the doors and kind of looked in and that type of thing. So a lot of churches are open, some are locked up. This one's been locked up. And might not even be safe to go in, but it's beautiful the way it's nestled in the trees. And if you, on the very far corner there, you see those pine trees that are growing on the very far right, I guess, for you guys. If you go through those trees, there's a cemetery there. So you wouldn't even know it was there until you actually just went and did some exploring. And there's not a whole lot there for headstones. There maybe is more there that the headstones are missing, I'm not sure. But just the way it was so peaceful, you're nestled in the trees, so that would be a great place to be laid to rest. Like it was just so peaceful there. It was very, very nice.
Quick question.
Yes?
Are those military headstones?
No, these ones weren't, no. They kind of have that shape to them, but I think, let's see, let me go back here. Yeah, they sort of have that, they do have that military headstone shape to them, but I think these were a little bit taller and they were just like a regular headstone. This church here is on the Sandburg Church, I believe, St. John the Baptist Ukrainian Catholic Church. And it's on the Klina-Sandburg Road. So again, these are all within a few miles of each other. That's what amazed me, was how there's so many churches just in one area. Now, I believe this is the Bell House. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong.
Don't wanna kill your thing.
We're good.
Yeah, that's the Bell House.
That's the Bell House, okay. So I believe my father-in-law rang the bell there back in the day. My father-in-law grew up in the arms of Garden River. Now this church, I'm not sure when I took this picture, but the church was built in 1917 and it was enlarged and renovated in 1948. And then Fred Trach, the name maybe sounds familiar to a lot of people, apparently he put the money in to put a new roof on the church and refurbish it. And we've actually been to a couple of church services there. I think they have one a year in July where they actually still use the church. It's very well cared for. Yeah. And then there's the cemetery. I'm assuming you can tell because it's like Ukrainian Orthodox, Ukrainian Catholic. They've got the certain shaped headstones as well. The previous one, you notice the headstones were just like a regular shaped headstone, but these have the more of a cross. Yeah. Now, we've got our car in there, but this is the Holy Trinity Ukrainian Orthodox Church, and it's only a couple miles from the previous church. So that was one thing I was quite shocked about. It seemed like every time we turned a corner, there's another church, you see these steeples sticking up. So I believe this one is still used as well, but it's never opened. We've been able to look inside, kind of. Well, we drove my truck up to the side, but we kind of climbed in the box to look inside. I think this had a beautiful painted blue ceiling with stars painted on that, so it's in good shape. And it's also got the cemetery. Now these are, I guess, maybe maple trees, but mostly on all sides of it, these huge poplar trees that are surrounding it. So best time to go is in the fall when the leaves are changing. This is very interesting. Know nothing about it. No, again, this was, I think, that same trip. We were driving in the arm of Garden River, and I think it's from the previous church. It's maybe a mile east and a couple miles north. And you see all these kind of scrubby poplar type trees. It was in the fall, and we're driving along, and all we saw out of these, because up on a hill, all we saw was the very top, with the cross on top, just sticking out of the trees. And so we thought, well, we got to go figure out what's here. basically just had to park along the side of the road and had to walk through all these poplar trees because it was all overgrown. We walked up, we found this, again, it's the Bell House, I'm assuming, but that's all that's there, for a building. It just does from a different time, different view. And the next picture here is gonna be, it's sad in a sense because, yeah, you can almost barely see the headstone. So there are only about 5 headstones maybe in that cemetery that were actually visible. The interesting thing was though, it looked like this had totally been forgotten about. But a few years after we went there, we noticed that there had been, somebody had plowed through the trees, like made a road through the trees up to here. And in this cemetery, they actually had a fresh, like there was a new burial there. Yeah, so somebody knows it's there, they knew it was there, and, you know, was gonna use it. And then, again, just the headstones sticking out of the tall grass and the trees. I don't have a picture of what I'm gonna mention next, but there's one time we were on a drive, and my wife's got an eagle eye for these kind of things, as I'm driving, she goes, hey, we're driving northeast of this area. And she thought she saw in the distance a headstone, just like that. And it was a canola field that has been combined. And sure enough, there's like a little clump of bush, and she thought she saw a headstone sticking out of it. So we stopped, we backed up, we actually went walking through the field, and sure enough, there was a small cemetery there that was surrounded by one of those old, kind of like a chain link fence, the metal fences that had the round, you know, round tops on the fence. And inside this probably 8-foot square little plot was a couple of headstones that looked exactly like this. And I don't know how long it's been there for a long time, but I have no information about it, but that was, it's amazing what you can find when you're just looking. You know? Now some might find this one, they might know about this one. This is actually the St. Andrew's Anglican Church. I don't think actually the church is there anymore. This would be, if you head down Highway 2 south going towards St. Louis and you get to the Hullcrow Road, you turn east and go down it. It's the road that's kind of the main grid that takes you to the Fenton Ferry. So this is the St. Andrew's Church, which, like I said, I don't think the church is there anymore, but it says founded in 1878.
Burnt down in the 80s.
Oh, did it? This one, though, these pictures were taken, though, probably 2010-ish kind of thing, so, but I know the church is not there anymore.
This is the Helco Cemetery, isn't it?
Well, this is just St. Andrews, that's all I know.
How do you know its name?
It's said, actually, there's a couple of books I wanted to point out too. There's a couple of books done by people from churches in Saskatchewan, and that's what they had pointed out, that it was an Anglican church. Unless I have a sign here as well.
Yeah.
St. Andrew's Anglican Church. There we go.
There you go.
Now, the reason I included this picture is that some of the RMs have put up these monuments where a church is standing, or a cemetery, or schools as well, or where one stood. So you might be driving along and see one of these, you know, sitting in the ditch, and you can stop and you can actually read what was actually at that site. There is a spot southwest of Prince Albert where there's actually one at each corner. There's 4 of those. One was a school, one was a church. I can't remember what the other ones were, but same type of thing. So these are kind of good markers to know where to stop. And every RM seems to be a little bit different. I think the RM of, this is what, Prince Albert?
Prince Albert.
I think the RM of Garden River has the same type of monument or marker, but some are just different or some have none at all. So I'm not sure how it was decided to put them up or not. But it helps anyone like myself that is driving around out in the country and wants to stop and find out what was there. So this is the cemetery at St. Andrews. It's fairly large. That's the other side of it, so it is a little bit, looks like something's missing off the front here. Now, the St. Mary's Anglican Royal Church and Cemetery. It's very close to Prince Albert. If you're driving south down Highway 2 towards St. Louis, it's only a few miles past the intersection of going to Saskatoon. And there's actually a sign that says Royal Road, so if you see the sign Royal Road, this is where you'll find the Royal Church and Cemetery. And just behind the church on this right-hand side for you, there is actually a small cemetery there. Most of the headstones are just the flat ones that are just on the ground. so very hard to see. But it's actually, other than the plywood covering up the windows, it looks a little rough, it's actually in not bad shape if you look at the siding.
Trouble is, that church, it was a party church,
This
and
one,
that's why all the plywood blocking up the,
right.
the nickname, I think, was the Ghost Church or something
Oh,
like
really?
that, so party time.
Yeah. Which is too bad,
Yeah.
too bad.
Question is, how do you know that, John?
That's a really good question.
His father was there, and he served there.
I think John probably chased the partiers out of there. That's what we'll go with. I think this, I don't have a picture of it here, I didn't get catching the picture. This has like a little fence around it as well, with one of those wrought iron type gates that are, I'm not sure when those were put up, but it's, does have a little fence around it. So the Colston United Church. Now this would be Highway 302 east, just to the north of the highway on Reed Road. And this church, I believe, is still used. We've gone by there over the years, and there has been services there every once in a while, it seems. You can see to the right of the church in the background, that's the pulp mill. So it's close to the river. You can see the pulp mill of that. I believe there are some pictures of the inside of it. These were just taken through the window. So it's in really good shape. Now, the Steep Creek Church, this is Highway 302 east, as you keep on heading east towards the river forks. It's in the community or the area of Steep Creek. And again, it's in good shape as well. You can see the cemetery. There are a few cemeteries that have, these are the lest we forget, list of the, I guess, people from the area that went to war and didn't make it back. The veterans, that's right. The St. Philip's Anglican Church, and it wasn't until I'm reading this off that there's a lot of Anglican churches, I didn't realize that. So this church, again, this is one of those ones that we found that you're driving along and you see something and slam on the brakes, have to back up and go back to it. This would be south of the, what's the ferry that goes at the very end of 302? The Weldon Ferry? Yeah, that's right. If you go a couple miles south of the Weldon Ferry, you'll pass, you turn to the right, head west, and you'll pass a church called the Wild Rose Church in the Wild Rose Cemetery. And for some reason, I couldn't find my pictures of that. And then a couple miles further west, as you're driving down the grid road, you'll pass